pure anti-proton. Absolutely pure.
This man is not a hero, he's a criminal. Shut up!
Hey everybody, what's going on? It's me, your buddy Admiral Teag, and I'm here with a pal of mine, Subcommander Tal. Good to see you, buddy. Welcome aboard. We finally got it together. We threaded the needle. Thank you for honoring your obligation and showing up. It's good to see you.
No, thank you for having me. I'm sorry I wasn't able to be up for it last week, but I'm glad we're finally getting it done. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, when I heard what we'll call the Kong flu had affected it, how could I feel anything but bad? I've had that 3 times myself. Oh,
yeah.
You know what? It's a drag. If we talk about it too much, we'll get in trouble.
I will say it's gotten easier every time, but yes, no need to linger on it.
That is definitely true. It doesn't last a hell of a lot longer, but it's like the duration that it goes on, it's not quite as mind-numbingly horrible. But welcome, and it's good to see you. I saw a great tweet from you today, and this is my first question. Before I get into that, you ready? Do we tweet posts? Do we post tweets, or is there some other term?
You know, I was on Twitter, I guess, for a couple years before Elon bought it. I wasn't on it for very long, is what I'm saying. But you know, I got used to the language of it. But I think I've pretty much moved away from. I mean, I don't really care what people call a tweet, people call it post, whatever. But you know, I guess the thing that is appealing to people about tweet is that at least you knew what platform you were talking about. When you say post, it could be any of a number of platforms. But yeah, so I don't know. I probably use them both from time to time.
You know what? I feel like the word tweet is like the word Google. If Google goes away tomorrow, and we could be so lucky, but if Google goes away tomorrow, you know, people 10 years from now will be like, "What are you doing?" I'm just Googling down that information you wanted. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
here.
absolutely.
It's a verb.
That's
It's
right.
a verb. And it's incredible how our language has changed. But I guess that brings me to the next question would be, what inspired you to create this incredible, you know, Subcommander Tall account and persona? It's fun. And for anybody who hasn't checked out Subcommander today, the pin post is, I thought that your pin post was great. It really just embodies James T. Kirk's outlook. You ready? If you want to build a ship, don't drum up the men to gather wood, divide the work, and give orders. Instead, teach them to yearn for the vast and endless sea. That is poetic.
Thank you. Well, I mean, obviously that's not my quote. That's from The Little Prince. But yeah, no, I started this kind of just on a lark, you know, during the initial stages. Well, not even the initial stages in 2020 during the lockdown when we're all looking for stuff to do. And it just kind of bit by bit, it grew and grew. I mean, you know, in a very modest way. And I've been a little less active of late, but just, you know, it allowed me to re-explore an interest from my teens, really, in a kind of a new way and with new people and a kind of a new social way. So I don't have any special connection to the character Subcommander Tao. When I was like trying to think of this account, I was trying to think, well, I know I'm going to do Star Trek with this account. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do, but let me pick a character that's not like super obscure, but it's not like, one everybody knows. So Subcommander Tao was just in the right sort of, zone for that. He had a small speaking role in one episode, and I thought he was a cool character. Let me pick him. And since then, I come to identify with him quite a bit.
You know what? He had a great crocheted outfit. It looked like the blanket I was just laying under when I watched it as a little kid. I mean, this goes back to my childhood. I guess everyone's childhood is under the age of 80. But here we have, a tweet you posted today, or a post you tweeted today, or a post or tweet today. Here's what I'm saying. I kind of think that Nomad and Jackson Roykirk get a raw deal because I'm from Rigel, Subcommander.
Ah, okay. One of the many
know,
Rigel planets in the Rigel system.
Jackson Roykirk did a lot for Rigel, as did Commodore Decker, and
He did.
I went to Jackson Roykirk Memorial High School.
Okay.
And our
Yeah.
team, the Nomads, went undefeated all through football season, and all we heard from, and by the way, the Parisi Squares team only lost one game.
Oh,
But
wow.
all through
Dominant.
the season, they just chanted that we were bad people because Nomad had destroyed like an entire sector of the known galaxy and like dozens and dozens of solar systems. And I'm like, just because it was overwhelmingly likely doesn't mean that he took a life of a lot of sentient beings. He probably just destroyed some boring planets like Hoth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
How hard was it for them to have to deal with the Doomsday Machine and Nomad kind of like within a couple episodes? It's like two of the kind of most powerful sort of non-human adversaries, like just within 2 or 3 episodes of each other.
And how weird is it that the two most important things in the motion picture came together in those 2 or 3 episodes?
Yes. Yes,
Right?
indeed.
Where Nomad has gone before.
Yes. Both classic episodes.
They are pretty classic. I don't. Norman Spinrad with the Doomsday Machine as the director. I don't think those people write another Star Trek story. I think the story, that's one of the ones that has like a couple of levels of credits. Someone gave them the story. They liked just so much of it. They substantially changed it. Then Gene had his hands on it for a little while. That one gets a good working over from the Star Trek people who knew what they were doing. They knew how to write a episode in a few acts. But I don't know. Maybe you recognize the ship I have here today. I guess we'll talk a little bit about this episode, and we'll ask my next X question. Yesterday's episode, Enterprise, familiar?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I haven't seen it in a while, but that's what is this from season 3 of TNG? Maybe like when it was
Season
really
3, episode 20. I just did it the other day, so
okay.
all on the tip of my tongue on this one.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a very well regarded one. I like it a lot. The only thing I don't like about this episode is the look of having the Monster Maroons without the collar, without that sweatshirt underneath. It just looks, how can you wear it like that? It just feels like you'd be sweating in it.
Made them look
But
like they were from a different era for sure, but yeah, like some kind of black t-shirt underneath, something
yeah,
that made
something.
sense. I think that they still had that meta of they wanted to make it as least like our real world as possible, except when it absolutely made sense. Like Captain Kirk wore like, boxer
Yeah.
briefs and a freaking t-shirt like anybody else. And so does Trip extensively in Enterprise.
Yeah, well, no, it's an awesome episode. Really enjoy that. I mean, what brought me into TNG, because I was not a fan originally when it came out, although I was a kid, I was extremely loyal to the original series. I was one of those people who didn't want a next generation. But I came around to it, and part of what brought me around was just in general, Patrick Stewart's performances, and he did such a good job in that episode in a couple scenes of just, trying to hold the line, but knowing that the Federation was, going down the tubes and this was all kind of hopeless and having to keep that from the crew. And yeah, he was just stressed out in that episode, and I really enjoyed his performance.
Just before we get into the fact that was a great episode, I'll just say this. Could you imagine, like, New Trek Picard being forced to look back on that one? Not the evil one from season 2 of Picard. I don't know when you gave up. We'll get into that's actually one of the questions. When did you give up? But we'll get to that one later. You know what would be a like after the way Patrick Stewart has behaved and alienated people? I don't know how you feel about his statements. I feel he's been needlessly divisive towards his fans, and I
Well,
think that it's gone pretty far in some ways. By the way,
yeah.
guys, how's the sound? And hello, everyone.
Hello, everybody. You know, I can't say I've followed what he said so much about his fans. I think he's had certainly, you know, he's an actor, and actors get bored of doing the same things over and over again. They want to do other things. I don't necessarily blame him for wanting to do something different, but it obviously didn't work. I mean, this is not what the people wanted, and it's same with some of the later TNG movies when just having actors in charge isn't always the best idea in general. They
He
don't.
had too much
They,
power. I
yeah.
think the same thing that killed the movies killed the Picard show, and it got a little better just at the last moment. But like the writers weren't capable of elevating the material, even when they had the Next Generation crew back. Um, but let me ask you this question. You said you haven't seen Section 31.
I have not. No, I don't have Paramount Plus.
You know, I got to be honest with you, for $7.99 a month, it's a very worthwhile service, and it has no commercials at that tier.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is, and and I'm not here to yuck anybody's yum, as I can say as a former preschool teacher. I don't know if, if you've heard that, but
No.
at the same time, I can tell a little bit from a distance when there's something that I'm probably not going to enjoy, and sometimes it's just best not to go there. But if it was on, yeah, maybe I should just pay for. I have had Paramount Plus in the past, but I watched Strange New Worlds for a little bit. I gave that about half a season, but in general, I just I like revisiting. I basically like revisiting the original series. I mean, that's just kind of what I keep watching. Well, I don't even watch it that much. I just like
It's
talking about
really
it because it's
iconic.
it's all in the memory bank. So I mean, there's
Hey,
almost no
Rocco.
point of watching it. But yeah, but I've certainly followed the reaction in general to Section 31. It seems like it has not been extremely well received, shall we say?
You know what? It goes after yesterday's Enterprise and subverts a couple of
Ah,
characters. And by the way, guys, if my sound is good, let me know. Like, we're having it looks like it's pretty optimal. The bubbles popping about the same size, which is the only indication I can really get on here. Let me just say hello to some of the people out there.
hmm.
We slowly are straggling it. It's great to see we got up to 10 people, it's like gonna be, you know what, like Subcommander, if you like baseball, YouTubing sometimes it's like, a playoff game and you're cracking them into the third upper deck. And sometimes it's a regular season game and it's still a home run, but it just dribbles over the fence. It's gonna look like a line drive tomorrow because we have my channel's makeup is very close to the makeup of what you would expect from someone who does Star Trek.
Hmm.
It's a worldwide sort of engagement. So by the time we get back here tomorrow, there'll be some rewatching and some more numbers, which is cool. But now we're finally starting to take a hold of Thursdays. It's weird what YouTube will make you do to get a good outcome. But let me just say quickly, hello to this. I don't know why this thing keeps stalking me, but whatever. Duck. Hello, Mark Harkness. It's good to see you. I saw you over at NerdTube. Hello, John the Beagle Dad. It's good to see you, my friend. And Rocco the Brave, my friend from Two Guys Talking. It's good to see you. You know what? I can't wait to talk to you. I think you have a new X from the old one or something. Well, I'll look at it, and I think I found the new X, but put it in just follow me, and I'll follow you back, and we'll get a DM back and forth or whatever for when we have you on for Enterprise. But I'm sorry. Excuse me a second.
Yeah,
I'm still also a little bit coffee and a little bit like sinusy from the weather, but like
a little bit
section.
country, a little bit rock and roll.
Yeah, right. I have coughing and sinus congestion. Both kinds of rock and roll. But I'm muting strategically to spare the audience. It's what can you do? Here's
Yeah.
the yesterday's Enterprise paradox is this. It was such a great episode. It introduced a crew we loved. It was a lot of fun, right?
Hmm.
And the next thing we have is the Section 31 movie grabs the captain from that episode, makes her a Section 31 operative. So now I don't know if Kurtzman figured this one out, but Section 31 is now behind the Battle of Neandra 3, and that whole thing with yesterday's Enterprise, I guess, is a false flag operation. And
Ah.
now the Romulans would be the victims, wouldn't they? Because we have a dirty, underhanded, like, Section 31 agent out there doing Section 31-ish things.
Oh, is that what's happening in the episode? Okay, yeah, I did not know any of those details, and it's kind of it's a technique, isn't it, to like deconstruct something that was well loved in the past, but
I don't know
because you
anymore.
can touch on something that people know, so that's you think the recognition of something familiar is going to draw people in, but it's like, I don't know, just kind of do your own thing, right? I mean, like, just go in a new direction rather than just revisiting stuff and, I don't know, breaking it apart. I mean, there's there is something interesting in that. I mean, I'm not saying avoid everything has to be set in marble and you can't touch it, but it just seems like they go to that well a lot, and I'm not sure it's working for them. I'm not sure
They
that's really
have
what people want to see. So,
Yeah, they have several beats, right? It's super weapon, revenge, and meaningless, unearned emotional arc, I think was how it was summed up by Red Letter. It was one of the only pieces of information in their review. They have gotten to the point where it's just about being weird.
hmm.
But so what we had did was one of the things about this channel, one of our metas was, saving Star Trek, which let's face it, it's out of my hands, but as far as like archiving, preserving it, having the biggest watch party, and also my other show is called Sci-Fi CSI for when they do new Trek. I don't want to use their hashtag and make it trend. I don't like to make them trend. I don't like to use the Star Trek hashtag when they have a project out. I like to
Ah,
starve it. I don't want to help their met. Well, I've heard that even the hateful stuff is used, and they're like, hey, look how successful this is. So what I like to, hey, JT Kirk, hell to you, my friend. It's good to see you there. We've got Subcommander Tall from X. JT Kirk is one of my
greetings.
co-hosts on Enterprise, which I
Oh,
guess we'll
okay.
talk about later. But what they did here was they subverted our yesterday's Enterprise episode in a really bad way, but it was so skillless and so poorly done, and such a terribly executed film that I think one of our panelists said, Sean Carter said it was as bad as The Last Jedi in a lot of ways. That was his feeling about it. That it had
Yeah.
Last Jedi sort of, and it was deeply incompetent. He's like maybe worse because it was deeply incompetent and didn't have one or two well composed shots.
Hmm. Yeah, well, not having seen it, I can't really get specific on it, but like I said, it didn't. I mean, the whole Section 31 thing, I don't know. I mean, I
We
guess
had
it
an
worked a little
Irish
bit, and
Vulcan.
it had an Irish
We had an
Vulcan. Okay,
Irish
yeah,
Vulcan.
yeah,
And he
interesting.
was a nasty bastard too. He had like a lot of disdain for everybody. And then we found out that he had a Men in Black like alien inside of his brain driving him.
Hmm.
Weird stuff, Subcommander. Weird stuff. This was the weirdest, stupid. The thing inside of his brain was so tiny that it could fly out of the side of his head. So I guess there's a 5G connection between him and the Vulcan, right?
Hmm.
The Vulcan has some kind of crazy Irish accent, and he's laughing his ass off the whole time, and it's really ridiculous. And then later on, like this part of the story turns on, everybody realizes there's a traitor because of course, and everyone's dark secrets come to the surface because of course. Then of
Right.
course they grab the one person we know couldn't be in on it because they're around in later Star Trek, but who knows these people because they're that incompetent. And then it's so many mistakes. Just I guess the final word on this one before getting rather than getting deep into it was there's text on screen, which is considered poor filmmaking. They'll tell that to George Lucas.
Hmm.
It's we see a map with a star base just on the other side of the border, and it says the Federation border, and it's explained to us by Jamie Lee Curtis that the Federation border can't go across it into this other person's space. It's very important that we send Section 31, and we see it illustrated on the map. It's just over the border. When we get there, it says far, far from Federation space, and like I'm like, whoa, far, far in a row. Bad form right there, but you just contradicted what I just saw. So
That
you
it's
showed and
just
showed
over the
again.
border. Uh-huh.
They showed and told, and then they told again by having it on screen,
Hmm.
and it contradicted what they just said. That was the level of incompetence we're talking about here, Subcommander.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
I'm gonna
it
guess
doesn't
they
sound
wouldn't
great.
last long on your ship. What would? Let's just say that you had a young under commander, Kurtzman, and he's a relative. What's called Kurtzman. Let's give him a Vulcan name. Because in New Trek, there shouldn't really be Vulcans or Romulans. They act exactly the same.
Mm,
So that's why I call them Vulculans. So
Vulcans.
I call them Vulculans, and I call the Rings of Power elves Vulculans. You
Mm,
know, I
yeah.
don't know. You know what? I should ask you another question though. We talked about how you got the inspiration for the Subcommander persona, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was fairly random. I do like that
Yeah.
episode, but it's not like a one of my top.
Enterprise incident.
The Enterprise incident, indeed.
It's the best in season 3, maybe though.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that it's certainly up there for season 3, which, I think the first, okay, a couple episodes notwithstanding, I think the first half of season 3 is actually pretty good. But
It
um,
kind of falls apart in flight.
yes, it does. But the thing about season 3 that is
Hey,
interesting
Sean.
to me is that, like, Star Trek, I
Hey,
feel
OB2's
peaked
here.
at the end of season 1 and then the beginning of season 2. That's when it peaked. That's the Gene L. Kuhn years, and you've got, it's just sort of banger episode after banger episode. But the end of season
Yes.
2, by the end of season 2, which most people regard as the best season, it was getting kind of in a rut of like parallel worlds and that kind of thing. There was a little bit of or talking the computer to death. There was in a little bit of a rut. Season 3 comes along, and the production values are worse, and it's a little
And the
stodgier. But
ship's empty.
and the ship's empty. But they had some interesting ideas, just that were like different. But just the execution for many of them was not good. So I mean, even something like Dare I Go There, like even something like And the Children Shall Lead, which is a bad episode. I'm not saying in fact, it's probably the
It's
worst.
bad.
It's the worst episode. But that idea of like I don't know, these like creepy kids, if it had been done better, or like this alien civilization that sort of left a malevolent imprint on this planet and is now like using I don't know, it's different. So anyway, maybe that's not the best example, but I think season 3 in some ways is better than people give it credit for.
No, you make a good point. I mean, it's a you make a good point because it's a failed episode and they stunt casted it and there's a few predictable mistakes, but somewhere in there
Yeah.
they were trying to do something a little different. But as they say, don't never work with animals and children, right? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. No, the kids were not strong in that episode.
I like the fact that we saw the Federation banner. That's like the one.
Oh,
Like,
that little
what
flag.
else
Yeah.
is there? We see the Federation flag. Yeah, it
Yeah.
wasn't blue though. I was surprised.
That's
Um,
right.
And by the way, OB2, I just want to say Thursdays are going to be a thing now. Yeah, 7:30. We're reestablishing Thursday. Tuesday was always kind of a crazy thing where I'd go a long time every week, and that's a little much. The YouTube thing versus the X thing, and hey, the NYPD make their first appearance. I'm right in here, guys. I'm putting the weapon on the ground. The phaser is down. I don't have the guts to go wide field stun the cops again. But when did you notice your X account started really gaining traction? When did you start seeing like a lot of replies? Because you have considerable following. Let me look at it now so I don't get it wrong. 4,307 followers. You're responsible for 4,307 lives, Subcommander.
That's that's right. He's got your problem and my problem and 4,306 other people. Well, I mean, it took a while. It wasn't, and it wasn't something I was really trying. I didn't go on Twitter and think I'm here to try to build this whatever account as much as I could. I started basically doing the like the live tweeting through like the all Star Trek hashtag when Star Trek comes on the HNI network every night, or doing TOS Saturday night. I would just do that, a couple times a week. But then I got into this. There used to be an account that would post random screenshots from the original series, and I would retweet it and put some, amusing or snarky or thoughtful text attached to the screenshot. And then that account went away. So I thought, well, I'm just going to make these myself. And I just, I don't know, just kept doing it. And people seemed to like it. And from time to time, I would do a little bit of a longer thread on some whatever topic it might be, Scotty in Command, or the Ticonderoga sets, I'm very grateful that a lot of people thought it interesting. I think but it wasn't really until the last maybe year that I can't even remember. I don't know, but I feel like it's slowly grown mostly.
I think that it's great. You seem to have been more like kind of in a observer and sort of really slightly philosophical mode without being over the top. I thought it was some pretty good posts today and inspirational. And hey, JT Kirk, by the way, thank you. Hell, fire and snow, higher Kurtzman, things will blow, only streaming, hard to see. Michael Burnham, cry with me. There's something appearing in my living room. It looks like the skipper. Wasn't it me, or did the angel, the Gorgon, looks like slightly like the skipper?
Yeah, it does bear resemblance. I forget that guy's name. I mean, the skipper, I know Melvin Belly, but yeah, there is a resemblance
Alan Hale
there.
Jr.
Alan Hale, thank you. Yeah,
I don't
that's
know,
pretty good, JT Kirk.
I don't know what it was. That was really good. He's a member for 11 months, and he's part of my yesterday's Enterprise, or my Enterprise panel on Saturdays. Saturdays we do watch parties of Enterprise. I guess I'll just ask you now. We've been discovering that, with notable exceptions, and they're notable, the Star Trek, Star Trek Enterprise, or Enterprise as it's called at first. It's just everything that keeps it from getting a fifth season, but it's a better show than was remembered, and I feel is like, again, with notable exception, it seems to throw for like more strikes or bat for a higher average, whatever you want to say. Like the episode, it's like we saw some good situational hitting, to borrow a term from another hobby of mine, where we had an episode that all it had to do was amuse us, move the runner over, hit safely, so to speak, and it did that a lot. It didn't. It rarely embarrassed itself, once or twice maybe. When it didn't work, it was fun again, like Star Trek was supposed to be. The end of Voyager discovers that too. And hello, buddy, did you like your cameo in our video? And hello to the Tetrarch. It's been a tick. It's good to see you, Tetrarch. It's good to see you, Suzanne. Hello.
Well, I think sometimes shows like that, they can be like Edith Keeler, she was right, but at the wrong time. It's like maybe if Enterprise, I think there was just a fair amount of Star Trek fatigue in general with all, kind of the end of the Berman era, which had gone on it was very successful, but it had gone on quite a while. And if like there had been maybe a gap, and then Enterprise, the show, starts up a few years later, people had a chance to just kind of reset, then maybe they could have seen its success a little more clearly. But I think just in general, the audience at that point was probably a little tired of Star Trek. I'm sure you're right. I'm sure in retrospect, especially given the other things people have seen, I'm sure it's good by comparison, or it seems better in retrospect.
My view is personally that the Next Generation movies running out of gas and demotivating people really hurt the rest of the franchise, and people didn't want to admit it.
Yeah, I think there's something to that. Yeah. When was the last film? Was that 96? Maybe.
That's what.
Somewhere around there.
Watch them try to. They're probably going to threaten one for next year. Who knows what they're going to say? But yeah, it's been a while. No, their last movie was like 2002, maybe.
Oh, the last TNG movie was 2002.
Right.
God, okay.
Maybe it was.
You're
because
right.
Remember,
you're right.
It's 94 and 96.
Yep.
The next one will be due around 98, and I think they got it out on time. And then the last one's late because it's like now we've got Kurtzman in the picture, and also no one wants it after the last one. It was like, that movie with F. Murray Abraham, the new Star Trek movie? Yeah, what about it? F. Murray Abraham, okay? F him for being a Sicilian pie in that film. That might have been the first Star Trek movie I walked out of.
Yeah.
I didn't care anymore halfway through that movie. I was like, fuck.
I didn't even go see the last one. I'd kind of gotten tired of Star Trek generally by that point, but I didn't see it until several years later. I think I rented it actually.
There we go. This is 02. So thank
you.
It pretty much within a few weeks or months brackets the whole run, right? Like there's a Star Trek Generations, there's a Next Generation project the same year that ends.
Yes, that's
Thanks,
right.
too. We have validation. I have the best chat. Culture Casino tried to claim he had the best chat today. I salute Culture Casino's chat, but if you're part of both, you're even better when you're over here, in my opinion. But no YouTuber worth his salt would say anything differently. Let's see. Next question for Subcommander Tall. I asked you if we tweet posts or post tweets, but let's see what the audience says about that one because I also threw that one out there. Do you still use the term tweet? Was the iteration of the question. And yes is 75%.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yep. Old habits die hard. And it's just, I don't know. It's a fun word to say, tweet.
Yeah, what we do now, doom scrolling doesn't sound as good. Tweeting, it has this dignified nature to it. It's like, I was touching grass, getting in touch with nature. I tweeted.
Well, above all else, it sounds like something that should not be taken seriously, which I think is, in general, good. Good. I try not to take anything that I put on social media too seriously.
By the way, this I would watch. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna watch it anyway. People I wasn't gonna watch this. Then the channel members voted and they were very vocal that they wanted us to watch it. And they wanted us to hold it to the same standards that we do when we review regular Enterprise. Because every once in a while, we'll veer off and we'll do another franchise, too. It's it's not quite linear. Sometimes something so bad will happen, we'll have to break the chronological view. Because what we did was we started with Enterprise and went forward. Because first of all, I don't think it's been tried before.
So do you consider each episode in turn, or you just kind of have general discussions about the series?
We have a watch party for every single episode.
Ah, okay.
And what we do is we rate it. We rate it as Star Trek. We review the episode after the watch party so that everyone has a chance to see it. It's fresh in everyone's heads. And then we discuss it. And sometimes it's 2 hours and 10 minutes because the episode's not great. Or if the episode's great, sometimes it goes less time. The bad episodes have the longer, funnier conversations. Like the episode Detained with Dean Stockwell. We were just like, what is going on in their minds yet? That they over attack the people that they encounter in that and why they would do that and think it was okay. But Admiral Teag, you're unsubbing. It's Outlaw Bill, my pal from the OBSN Sports Network, where you'll be able to watch the Super Bowl and other NFL events or whatever. I guess we're going to find something else. I guess baseball. So I've been moving to post. They say only people on YouTube still call it Twitter. Is that true? You would know. You're a little more of an authority on the X side of things.
Do I notice people saying tweet versus post? Are
YouTubers the only ones who still call it Twitter?
Oh, goodness. Well, I'm not on YouTube very much, but on Twitter, many people still refer to it as Twitter, but fewer and fewer steadily. So, time will have its effect.
Can I ask you a mundane question about Twitter?
Yes, please.
X, we had a mundane situation. Well, it's not mundane for the person it happened to. They seem to have gotten control of it. And since we're talking about him positively, I guess I'll just say it. Nerdporial Lifeform, a pal of ours, is a great guy. And on my channel recommend page, that situation with his ex left us both confused. This was my take.
Indeed.
While I believed that the tweets coming from the new account were him, it was saying exactly the things that someone out of nowhere would say to try to fuck him over. That's why I didn't know what to do. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. No, I was not quick to respond or pass judgment in that situation either. The same thing happened to another very small account that I know there as well, though. So that led me to think, oh, maybe something is going on. Is there just more general hacking of accounts? Or I don't know what happened, or
I don't know the extent of it either, because work comes in and Nerdporial is by the way, Nerdporial, again, if you want to subscribe, a great creator, subscribe to him. He's on the recommend tab on my homepage. But what happened was he didn't change his official Twitter and his X account and his official X in his YouTube. So I was like, if he would just put that in there. So I don't know how many things this person was able to grab from him that he had to then forcibly pull back. So he might have had the week from hell for all I know, but he's streaming again. So I was happy to see that. And I think he's on later, so.
That's right. I think he's on tonight. So
great guy.
Absolutely. I hope it works out for him.
You know, in this YouTube game, I don't know about an X, but in the YouTube game, people can be either colleagues or they can be adversarial. I'm on the same night a lot as Nerdporial, and we cover the same stuff. Never anything but a pal and a colleague. And
Yeah.
also, he could care less about the BS in social media. He uses it to talk about his show, and that's about it. That's why when I got a DM from him at all, I was like, "What's going on?"
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Well, he's a smart guy. I'm sure he will bounce back. So,
I think it seems to be under control now. He might have to just change what his official X is. Last time I checked, I think it still went to the old one. I don't know if he's corrected it yet, but we'll see what happens. I don't know. So let's see.
but
What's your
one last thing about
Go ahead.
Twitter. I think people are. I mean, not to turn it into a different kind of discussion, but I think one reason people are reluctant to change the name, it's just because the new name is just so I don't know, so kind of lame. I don't know. It's like I'd be open to a name change,
It
something
does
other than
suck.
Twitter,
It shows
but yeah, it's a little goofy.
Elon is just like he has like sometimes guilty of deeply linear thinking is the only way to put it.
Hmm.
Is it better now that it's X than it was when it's Twitter?
Ah, gosh, I mean, I was very open to like a change because I definitely saw things before his ownership that I found disturbing, or some voices were there was pylons or cancellations, whatever you want to say, and I thought, okay, well, if we can get a chance to just end some of that, that would be great. And I thought community notes was great, but
We are, yeah.
I do seem to feel like seem to notice more like following by bots than I used to have prior to his owning it. And I don't like seeing him in my feed all the time. I feel like no matter what I do, if I mute him, it doesn't matter. Like somehow he keeps coming up. So yeah, I mean, and a lot of people left. Some of them I don't care. Some of them I miss. But it's just yeah, it's a different feel now. So, but I still
Right.
there's many people there I still like and connect with. So I'm still planning to be there.
I don't know about the other platform either. Blue Sky, when I went there, all I did was laid claim to my name over there so no one could jack it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's all I really cared about over there. It's like I can't be defamed by someone just grabbing my name over there. It's a little too easy of a way to punk me. So let's get rid of that one and try to have a little better, control. Like branding control is just very important. Did you grab your name over there, or are you doing it right
I
now?
did a while ago, and then I started using that account probably 6 months ago, I guess. And
What's the experience like?
well, I mean, generally it's been positive. I mean, I'm pretty choosy about the kind of people I follow, and I also tend to just, when stuff pops up in my feed that I don't care about, it just washes over me. I just ignore it. I'm just looking for Trek stuff that I find is interesting. I think it's fair to say the vibe is rather similar to how Twitter was pre-Elon. So there's a certain political skew to it, but then again, there's good Trek conversations happening. But both platforms, to me, feel slightly quieter than than Twitter was in its late heyday. I don't know. But I just sometimes cross post, or I'll post something on X and then something over on Blue Sky, or I recycle something old from X and put it on Blue Sky. But I'm less active on both of them than I used to be, I gotta say.
I don't know if you're allowed to answer this based on TOS and stuff like that, terms of service to X or anything, but Subcommander Tal, your only interaction through X, or do you have like another account where you just like, it's raining? You know what I mean? Like heading out to like get the dog groomed, something like that.
Do I? I'm not sure if
Is
do
it,
I have another
do you have
account?
another account where you have like where you
Oh,
do other things, or is this
oh,
your
no,
only?
I have several accounts on X, and then the Subcommander that I use, but he's pretty much only on Blue Sky and X. But I have
Okay.
I have an account on X that I use just to write. Okay, I'm not going to give you the handle, but I write
No,
like
no. Hi,
little
Lombardi, by
little
the way.
poems and little observations. Then I have another one that I just use to follow political stuff. I mean, whatever the genre is, I'm interested in. And then I have that Mr. Leslie account. I don't know if you are familiar with that, but that's sort of like it's a little bit like Riker Googling. It's kind of,
Riker Googling can be fun.
it can be. Yeah, I have one that's based on a Mr. Leslie from the original series.
I've
So,
seen that. That's you
yeah,
as well? Okay.
that's me as
I like
well.
Mr.
Yeah.
Leslie. Oh, that's in your bio, isn't it?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
copped that one. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
But I
Yeah,
don't
I
do
like
any
Mr.
other social
Leslie.
media. Yeah, I mean, I don't, I don't have like a YouTube channel, or I don't have an Instagram or Facebook or any of that. So
Or an OnlyFans.
no
Or,
OnlyFans for the.
you have to find out the hard way, right? All right. Here's the question then. We'll go down to the nitty-gritty of Star Trek before we get maybe back to talk a little more about yesterday's Enterprise and my favorite episode, the Doomsday Machine, since that's a TOS one we can both talk about.
Yeah.
Earliest memory of Star Trek.
Oh, easy. And I've told this story too many times probably on Twitter, but I remember being about in kindergarten age, and my dad would watch Star Trek on the TV. He'd watch reruns. I was born in 1974, so this is the late 70s. And I was too little to like the show, but I remember the Empath, that episode, if you're familiar with that, which, if you're 4 or 5 years old and you hear that
Sure.
intense music, the wounds on McCoy, the viands with the oversized heads, and then the what's her name, Jem, who doesn't speak. I mean, it was just an intense, weird episode, not necessarily a great Star Trek episode, but very memorable. And that just went into my brain as a little kid. And, I didn't become like a fan at that point, but I remember it from a very young age.
I love the Empath. That might have been one of the last original series episodes for me to really come across. Like, I saw it as a kid. I kept on watching it religiously in New York. We had limited opportunities to watch it, and I never had a box set. But my first memory is watching it on the couch with my parents. So I think I was the initiator of watching the Star Trek, and my dad was like a New York City cop, so he just kind of sat there looking at it like sideways the whole time. I was like, "What's with these waiters?"
Yeah. But yeah, that was the origin story for me. And then when I was a bit older, like middle school, that's, I grew up as a kid, I watched He-Man and Transformers and, what was his name? Gundar the Barbarian. Like that was the kind of stuff. Thundar, excuse me. God. That was the kind of stuff I was
Don't
into.
dead name Thundar.
That's right. But,
guys.
Star Trek was always there. And then, when I got to be like 11, 12, 13, then I really got into it. I think probably because, I liked the movies, but then I went back and really, the TV show was still on all the time. It was still on in reruns then. This was like the mid to late 80s. And I just became obsessed with it at that point.
You know what? If you're going to be obsessed with something, and hello, Gavin, it's good to see you, my friend. If you're going to be obsessed with something, it's pretty harmless to be obsessed with Star Trek, the Next Generation, the original series.
Yeah.
So I will say this: the first episode I remember watching is the Cloud Minders.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I love that one.
That's a great one. Great set design on that episode. I love that
And great
set.
for a little kid. It was easy enough to understand, but it was like several really cool sci-fi ideas like mixed together, and I loved it.
Yeah. And there was some action, and it's
enough. We had a
enough.
guy get thrown off a balcony 200 miles in the air. It's like how anyone could breathe that high up was beyond me, but whatever. That planet was different. Their atmosphere got denser as he went up. In fact, it made sense if you just embraced that meta of their atmosphere was thinnest near the surface. So your favorite Trek series, I guess, is safe to say TOS.
Oh yeah, without any question, for sure. It's just I loved that show as a young person. I mean, really, there's like, I don't know, maybe like 10 intense years from age 12 to like age 22 where I just lived and breathed it. But then I kind of got sick of it and, moved on to other things. And, it's been nice to have this renaissance later in life and just revisit it. And, I kind of figured before I found the community on Twitter, I kind of figured, well, I know everything there is to know about the original series. Nobody, nobody knows more than me. And then I realized, oh God, no, I don't know anything. I mean, just what I was learning from other people, and like all these behind the scene photos that I'd never seen before. There was just so much material. So it's been so fun to just expand, and so many more books have come out than I was exposed to when I was younger. So it's been great learning more.
I got to agree about that, the expanding lore and the stuff that we can read, because really, like, what they're giving us on TV, woof, woof, woof. Maybe a little more on that later. So let me ask you a question, and you tell me what you think of this. It's just an assertion, actually, and then you tell me what you think of my assertion. The best Star Trek stories, and the only ones that ever will work, are ones that have emphasis on the traits of friendship, loyalty, and sacrifice. And without that, you don't have Star Trek.
Well, I mean, my gut is to immediately agree with you, but I'm trying to be logical and fair-minded and think of, episodes that I like that were
Your
maybe that
ancestors
isn't.
spawned in a different ocean than mine, Subcommander.
For sure, Star Trek has its roots in theater, and theater is based around character, rather than spectacle or action. So I think from that point of view, what you're saying is entirely correct. I mean, I think what made Star Trek really, okay, every little kid likes the spaceships, people like some action, but fundamentally most of its appeal was in the characters and their relationship and how they kind of like dealt with such a wide variety of situations together, and like you said, kept that loyalty and that sense of family. I think that's what really drew people to at least the original series, and Next Generation too, and I'm sure, I mean, I haven't really seen much of Deep Space Nine or anything after that, but I think it's not that there's anything
That's
wrong
my Star
with.
Trek blind spot too. Isn't that funny? I like Voyager though. I found a way to watch almost all of Voyager. Voyager has probably the highest fail rate of any Star Trek show. But unlike Deep Space Nine, when Voyager fails, it tends to be as funny as when a TOS episode doesn't quite fail. But you know how some of those TOS episodes succeed in a way that wasn't completely the way they intended, but it's still great.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, there's very few original series episodes, if any, that are boring. Even when they're bad, it's like it's entertaining, or you can find a moment in there. You can find some moment, some scene that's still moving or gets you, even if it's buried in a lot of cringe. But
there's always a good story that gets messed up in the process in those failed episodes, or the ones that don't quite take off, especially in season 3, because they had some good scripts laying around.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. We had one set of questions. Now we get down to the divisive questions, Subcommander. Favorite Star Trek theme song?
Theme song?
Yeah, from any movie or TV show. Legitimate, though. Nothing after 05, or you get beamed into deep space and maximum dispersal.
Can I just say music, or it has to be vocals? You're talking about a song?
Oh, hey, Nerdporial's here. Nerdporial! Chip, we were just talking about you. It's so good to see you. Change the official X in your channel so we know for sure. I'm so glad you overcame that problem. Section 31 is the greatest thing ever. Oh, God, we're just talking about it. You're on a little later. Put your channel in the chat for me, please. And hey, Critically Thinking and Drinking is here from X. It's good to see you, my friend. Welcome aboard Star Trek Wrath of Khan. Easy.
So you're saying just like the music in general. You're not talking about like it has to be. This isn't a trick question where like what's your favorite song with words?
I would say you can restrict it to theme song.
Okay.
Because like a lot of people might be like, I love the Fred Steiner music, or I love the Alexander Courage music from the Empath. I think the music, the one you mentioned, that's mostly Alexander Courage, or at least it's based around it because it has that very ethereal feeling. Like the Captain's Log stuff was Alexander Courage.
Yeah, I think you'll find the Empath was George Dunning, I believe was his name. Okay. He did a couple others, but
he had a great feel for how to do it.
His stuff is always described as sensitive. He also did Metamorphosis and Is There in Truth No Beauty. But I guess if I had to pick a favorite, Oh, I mean, in general, for the original series, I think Fred Steiner is kind of the most kind of reliable this is hard because I'm very interested in the music. I mean, if I had to pick my one single favorite soundtrack, it'd be for the motion picture, just because I think there's a lot of variety in there. But if you're talking the original series, I guess I'd pick. I mean, I'd pick Fred Steiner as a composer, but he just did so many scores, and they work in a lot of different situations. But the music in general on the original series is just so good.
The music of Star Trek was great. It really
Yeah.
was. And so, just in context, then, all theme songs, just theme songs of the shows, the good Star Trek shows.
Yeah.
This includes if you want to throw in Archer's theme to save Enterprise or something like that, if you really hate Faith of the Heart, or maybe some people, Faith of the Heart, they love it. My in-world explanation for Faith of the Heart is that if we were at a baseball game on Cestus 3, they'd be like, please stand for the Federation National Anthem, and we'd all have to take off our hats and be like, it's been a long road, like we'd all sing it together. It's the in-world national anthem of the United Federation of Planets. But is there a Star Trek show that has your favorite theme song?
Yeah, well, I mean, in terms of like the opening theme song, then I'm
Theme
so
song
biased.
proper.
Yeah, I'm so biased. I mean, I have to go with the original series, which, by the way, is a song, right?
Hell
I mean, there
yeah.
were
It's a great song. Yeah.
the thing that
It's music. It's a theme
the thing,
song.
so many people, I mean, but so many people who get exposed to Star Trek now, they get exposed to the remastered version from 2006, where they redid that opening theme music with a different soprano, and the soprano is too prominent, and it's
Yeah.
not as good. I mean, you've
And
got to go
Captain
back.
Kirk's voice is a little filtered down and distant,
Yeah.
and he's like space the first. It's like why the hell is Captain
It's a
Kirk
little
down
tinny.
a long tunnel? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, there was a lot of different versions of it. They had that electric violin version, they have the cello version, they have the soprano version.
I feel like there's a theremin in the mix too.
Yeah, that electric violin one I think sounds like a theremin, but yeah, which it wasn't great, but yeah, no, I love that. I mean,
beg to differ. Oh,
it's so
hey.
different.
Let me just acknowledge one of our great supporters and a friend of mine. I was just reading his super chats over I was just watching Critical Drinker read his super chats. So in the same hour, Admiral Teag and the Critical Drinker mentioned by the same person. Thank you, RRTNZ, for the very generous $5 New Zealand super chats. Says, hail team, listening while walking the dog. Chuck Norris's right fist is the Corbinite maneuver, and his left is the Doomsday Machine. Hail to you, RRTNZ. Well bet. Those are lucky doggos. You walk them. Thank you so much for the generous chat. It's so nice. And I'm going to star that. Let's see. Fred Steiner's Mud's Women stuff is fantastic. Yeah, I agree. My favorite Star Trek theme song is Voyager. Because this is my Matrix. You ready? It holds my attention and has me so excited for a adventure in a galaxy far, far away that I instinctually start to get swept up, and I have like one of the most enjoyable times listening to it. And also, it's a very good visual opening of Voyager. The CGI in that is the best they have. When the Voyager moves during the season, it strobes forward at FPS like 1. It's like FPS 0.1. But that theme song is so good that even though that show is not so great, that has carried me through some very shaky opening segments.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm trying to think what it is off the top of my head. You don't have to hum it, but I think the point is they paid attention to the. I mean, the theme music was important for all of these shows. I mean, it was well considered. I mean, I like the original series just because it has that little intro before it launches into the main kind of theme, and it's so reminiscent of the 60s in general in some ways. I mean, with a little bit of that with the bongos
colors,
and James,
the
but yeah, lots of
60s.
So it's just so fitting.
I got to agree. You know what? Nerdporial says right here, and a lot of people are echoing this, that the motion picture is pure magic. The motion picture indeed is pure magic. The motion picture, one of the best soundtracks until they fixed up that imagery, and until they cleaned up that thing with the final director's cut, which how you do that after the guy passes away, I don't know, but the one that came out like 2 years ago where we finally see the V'ger vessel. Do you feel that maybe until then, like in some ways, it could have been a soundtrack in search of a movie? Because it was like the payoff was just like, what's going on? It's like, I know we see it all on a tactical screen, and it's not as. When we see the cloud peel away and we see just how dangerous the V'ger ship looks, it changes a lot for me. I thought that I felt like I completed the journey that began as a kid seeing that in the theater. I still remember seeing the movie in the theater.
Huh, that's interesting. I mean, I liked being able to see it, and it was, because you get glimpses of it throughout the film with like the Enterprise flying over, but you don't see it in total. So it was nice to finally be able to see like what this thing was and what it looked like. But on the other hand, I don't think I felt like the absence of something with the original version. I think it just felt like it's a mystery, and it's just going to remain a mystery, and that's okay. But that said, I do like being able to see, and they did such a great job with it. So, yeah, I mean that the theatrical version was not the version I was first exposed to. I mean, I saw the one that was on TV where they had a lot of extra footage in there, probably too much. But I think that version from 1979 that was released was definitely not not ready for prime time.
Nerdporial just said it here. Full spread of memberships from my friend Mr. House Party 6. Thank you so much. Let's see who got them. Gamer 1745. Hey, buddy, if you're here, good to see you. Shorter, more approachable streams these days, by the way. Sci-Fi Mombi got one. All right, congratulations, Sci-Fi Mombi. Suzanne got one. DJ Play Nice was gifted a membership. Ariel O'Neill Ballet gifted a membership by Mr. House Party 6. Thank you, buddy. It's really nice of you. And you know what? Nerdporial Lifeform Director's Edition is the definitive version. The thing is, we have two. I don't want to do that. We have two different director's editions by name, right? By name, we got two different director's editions, and it looks like, is it X getting fired up? Hello, X with 39 people. Talk to me if you want. I'm looking at my other device with regularity, guys. 56 people watching concurrently. Hey, you know what? With your help and a little help from Critically Thinking and Drinking, I think this might be the most high-powered X in a while. But the difference between the two is incredible. We've gone 400 on X while doing like 6 to 12 on YouTube. It's very strange. And then also there's little games YouTubers can play too. Like if I bought like 13, 14 people here a night, no matter what the cost, and just filled every StreamYard's slot, that adds to your concurrence. It's kind of like some people, it's how much is it worth it though?
That sounds like my daughter's ballet class when they have like 50 kids and they need to really run two different shows, two different casts, but they just put everybody in every show because it'll put all the parents in the seats. So
right. But by the way, I want to say hello to Try 3 IRT. Good to see you. The soundtrack, sound effects of the Star Trek of the Star Trek 1 and 2 motion pictures are unforgettable. I got to agree. You know what's really funny is James Horner is the guy who does the Star Trek the motion picture. I'm sorry, not Star Trek motion picture. He does Wrath of Khan. Okay, James Horner does Wrath of Khan. He is also the guy who does Titanic, which means that the Titanic music and the Star Trek music, while sharing that composer, in a way you could say share a little bit of DNA, for lack of a better term, right? So what I always thought was funny was I became fixated on it, and I won't do it now. There's another show that does that, but I won't do it now. But I became fixated on the idea of doing a Star Trek song parody to My Heart Must Go On. And I did it. I pulled it off. I wrote most of it.
Oh, very creative.
Once more, Spock opens the door and he'll fix the warp core and Star Trek will go on. I'm working on it. There'll be a complete version one day. I won't listen now. Agree on T-Walk. That music when Kirk is trying to get to Spock, Always hits. Yeah.
Hmm.
Is there anything more like what's funny is it's a 1 second soundbite that I've had since I started my show, but everybody it's a fact this 1 second of sound, people say William Shatner gets he gets bagged a lot for being a ham, and his reputation has come back now that he's had more of a sense of humor about it, and he's been a lot of fun, although there's a presence on X. Maybe we could talk about that. But if he's not a great actor, how come everyone recognizes this moment and feels something? Tell me you don't.
Spock!
Mm,
Everyone knows exactly when that was.
really. No, I love that guy. I think he's a fabulous actor.
Now, were you, say, old enough to appreciate seeing that movie the first time you saw it, or was it a gradual, like, shades of enlightenment on that one?
It's interesting. I did see that in the theater with my father. I was, I guess I would have been about
Okay,
seven
so
or eight.
we're
So,
not in different stratospheres. I'm that's about how old I am for the first movie. So for
oh,
Wrath of
okay.
Khan,
Yeah,
consummately older.
and my only memory of seeing it in the theater was, I'd only known the show on TV. I had not seen the motion picture at that point. And I was like, wait a minute, that old guy with the mustache, that's Scotty? That's him? It's like I remember it was hard for me to wrap my head that these were the same people. But I ended up watching rather video. What did I do? I recorded Wrath of Khan when it was on TV at one point, and then watched that VHS cassette over and over and over again. And yeah, no, loved that movie.
Leonard Nimoy had gone through gum far where Vulcan's teeth grow back. Because if you look in the series, it's like he
Yes,
has the
that's
most
right. He
horrible
had all
teeth.
those.
He's like gross dragon teeth because he was like cigarettes and coffee powered him.
Yeah.
Thank God he quit and milked a few extra years out of life because I think if he had kept going, of course, we would have just lost him that much sooner.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, he'd been quit for like 30 years before I
I
mean,
think was it that? Well, I
something.
think it was more like 15. But yeah, like he racked up some really good service time though.
Yeah.
Like a lot of
Yeah.
that. And here's to speak about talent. Here we go.
Ship. Out of danger.
You saved the ship. You saved us all.
Yeah.
It's like tell me like Subcommander and I both have our hands on our monitor right now, right? That's the kind of
It never
but
gets old. It never gets old.
it honestly never gets old, and it never gets old being indignant by the way they subvert it. I find their desire to be Star Trek for a modern audience and to be a subversive slap in the face. I don't need their approval, and I operate under this opinion. You tell me what you think. I saw Gene Roddenberry at a million Star Trek conventions saying Star Trek in part belonged to the fans of Star Trek. Therefore, my trying to gatekeep it is not only legitimate; it's been asked for by the creator.
Mm. He said it belonged to the fans, and therefore
He
his
said a
trying to.
lot.
He's
He
well. He
said it a
said
lot.
he said yeah. He's said a lot of things.
Doesn't matter. A contract can be proven to be a contract under the common law. He regifted this thing many times. I'm telling you, I'm going to try to get control of the IP.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess my love for Star Trek is kind of, it's like, what are my other interests? I like my hieroglyphs. I like the old Tolkien books. I like them as
Oh, yeah,
history.
that's good
I
stuff.
like them as history. They're never going to change. They're untouched. They're always going to be fabulous. It's always going to be interesting. I don't really care what people do in the future. I mean, if they do something great, great, I'll like it. But they'll never be touched. And I'm happy to keep talking about them. I enjoy still revisiting them because I always have more to learn. But I feel like whatever they're doing today, that's fine. Go ahead and do what you're going to do. If you want it to be successful, maybe you should do things a little differently. But at the end of the day, it doesn't touch the things I love. So I just go back to that.
Yeah, I gotta say that's I kind of have to really agree with that one. Just hearing Shatner's agonized cry takes me back. Best Trek film ever. Yeah. A lot of people like six. It's a valid statement to like six. Uh, I just think that even though like some people would say three My cheapen too. I don't believe that odd movie. I don't really believe in that odd movie curse. Do you?
No, not really. I mean, I happen to
Three is
like.
good, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think three it's not as good as like two, but I mean, I think if you what you appreciate from Star Trek is the again, like you mentioned, the friendship, the loyalty, that kind of thing, the family, then it's an amazing film. I mean, the production values, maybe the direction isn't super inspired, but but the core of it is irresistible. So, yeah, I like three a lot.
um, You know what? Three is the biggest maximum sized episode that we ever saw.
Mm.
And it was really, but by the way, Mr. House Party 6, I didn't make enough of this. I really want to thank you for the 5 memberships. Guys, you now have emojis. Spam those emojis! Spam them! Spam them! Spam those emojis! You also, there's a new membership upload the other day. I take everybody on a ride on the New York City subway. And you're with me, so you're gonna be fine. In fact, you see the other people running in fear from me when I get on. So it's always a good thing. So thank you so much for that, Mr. House Party 6. I really do want to thank you a lot. And as you can see, everyone's spamming the Hoshi emojis and the Sydney Sweeney emoji. We like to have fun here. And
Hmm.
wow, we're approaching the triple digit club between the two mediums. As I look back over X, still not the most talkative bunch, but we got a lot of people listening over there. X, we
Yeah.
salute you. Well, hey, Subcommander, you know what? I've got my ex ambassador. You're my ex guy. You're one of my ex guys.
All right.
And you know what? Let me see. Let me go back to my questions. I had a few for you. I know that you had. I kept in mind your schedule, so I'm going to stick to that with you. And
Oh, thank you.
oh no, I
But
was aware. If you're having fun though, you can feel free to hang out. I think that's about as long as I'm probably going to be around tonight, though. So
yeah, yeah.
I might stick around 20 more minutes to talk to people. But let's see. For the culmination of the entire Kelvin thing, for me, it was the culmination of the entire Kelvin thing. But when did you give up on Star Trek?
Well, when I first gave up in it in probably about 1996 or seven, I just but that was because I was burnt out, just because I'd been a fan for what felt like a long time. It was a very intense period of 10 plus years and going to conventions, and that back in the days of Usenet, I would write a lot on Usenet and do internet mailing lists and all that kind of thing. And then I was like, I need a break. I need to find other things to do with my life. But and so I kind of never went back to it after that, in terms of like watching the current shows that were on. So I missed Voyager, I missed most of Deep Space Nine, I missed Enterprise. When the Kelvin movies came, I remember seeing the first one, and so much water had been under the bridge. I kind of enjoyed the first film for what it was. This was not Star Trek to me, but it was like sort of a pop culture riff on Star Trek, and I on those terms I enjoyed it. Um,
Weird Bad Kirk stung right away.
Weird Bad,
Weird Bad Kirk. I was like, I like this actor. I think he's cool. I
yeah.
don't mind him at all, and I think that he's trying to do something here. But this is a weird bad Kirk, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I saw the movie for the first time in IMAX. I was so excited that Star Trek was back,
Yeah.
and I didn't realize how poorly cut out the guy who was doing it was to be a Star Trek director, and how deeply
Mm.
he didn't get it. So what happened was I saw it again, like on a 2D screen. I'm like, "Ah, you know what? I had walleye vision the whole time. That movie was a mess. It was so visually overwhelming. I
Mhm.
must have missed the Star Trekkiness to it, because there's no way Spock just injected some red paint into that freaking underwhelming vat of oil and solve the Romulan supernova, which is
No,
something
no.
that takes hundreds of millions of years to happen. Like, what's with the Romulans? Like, last time I saw, they were invested in a bunch of systems, and that's a whole other thing. But so, like, this
Well,
preventable tragedy, but with their Romulan like sun deniers, it's like it's swollen up and absorbed the first couple of planets in the solar system a few times. Big deal.
no, the story made no sense, but I mean that isn't why I liked it. I mean, what it brought home to me was the fact that the archetype of these characters of Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, even this bubblegum version of them, they're just very irresistible characters. I mean, it's just they have very irresistible contrasts with each other, and even if you put them in, a kind of fast-paced Star Wars-esque, kind of not thoughtful spectacle kind of thing, they still are appealing. They're still kind of fun. So I liked the origin story aspect of it, and I thought some of the actors have good charisma, but the story itself made no sense. And I kind of, in a way, wish Leonard Nimoy hadn't been in it. Just because I think it should have been its own thing.
Let me just scratch off that follow-up question. Thank you. I've forgiven Leonard. He didn't know. Although when he read that script, he must have been like, "The fuck?" It's like, well, Black, explain it later. Leonard, don't worry. Hail Caesar! Who thought I'd get to say that in real life? It's great to say it. Shaka, when the walls fell. You know what? It's good to see you here. And welcome, Gavin. Welcome, Caesar. Anyone I may have missed on the way in. We have a lively crowd over on X. We're like 11 away from triple digits. Let's see.
Ooh.
Yeah, but we have that other number looming too, which I'm being mindful of. So we'll see what happens. It'll be fun. And hey, a $5 super chat from my friend RRTNZ. And why my own home computer won't let me heart it, I don't know. The other computer does. Let me see if I can do it on... There we go. Query for Subcommander. Do Romulans possess the same super strength and telepathic ability that Vulcans do? If not, why not? Telepathy predated Serac. It's true.
This is a great question. Yeah, and I personally
know, Subcommander.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, but I'm going to say yes, they did. I mean, I think that makes more sense. I have wondered this myself. Was there a Romulan mind meld? Could the Romulans do the nerve pinch? I mean, I think they could do all of that stuff. I think they had the same strength, and I think the strength, the telepathic ability, is basically biological, and I don't think you. Whereas the control of emotions, that is largely learned. So I think, the basic biology between them is, you got to think that's pretty much the same. So I'm going to say yes to the super strength and telepathy. But I don't know if it's ever been officially answered, but you got to think they can do that stuff.
The Romulans, you know what? The Romulans, I'm thinking, because the Vulcan philosophy was that the sort of like, a Jedi's power springs from the Force, so when you're calm, when you're at peace. That seemed to be like the basis of their telepathy and stuff like that. Like Spock, we see him calming himself down before he does a few things. I wonder if with the Romulans, they're so emotional that they lost the ability to do it the way the Vulcans did. It would be an interesting novel or something to find out, say, if they developed their own way of doing it, or the mind meld was indeed lost among the Romulans. I would be like, how about this? We find out they're immune to them. Like, you can't do it to them. They're
right.
blocking out their rage. You know what? We're getting down to that time. So here's the thing. I want to ask you, favorite episode, all series on the table here, except for the ones we won't talk about. All on the table here. Favorite Romulan episode.
Favorite Romulan episode? Oh, well, that's easy. I mean, I've got to go with the one I originate from. Well, I don't know. That's hard. There's like basically 2.5 if you count.
I'll let you off the hook. Your Avatar episode gets a pass because obviously it's your Avatar episode, and it does not need to be reassessed. So give us the one you think about aside from that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can be logical
Some
here.
Great ones.
I think in terms of a Romulan episode, I think Balance of Terror is probably a little better than the Enterprise incident.
Ooh,
but just in terms of like my favorite episodes, what appealed to me about Star Trek, like I said before, was the characters, and I felt a lot of sympathy with Spock as a young person. I think a lot of us did. That idea of self-control and dealing with emotions and this angst. So I tend to like the episodes that are Spock focused and show him really dealing with his emotions and having to battle them. So episodes like they're not necessarily crowd favorites, but episodes like The Naked Time or This Side of Paradise, or even All Our Yesterdays with the library and going back in time with Marion Hartley or whatever, Zarabeth. Those are the kinds of episodes I like. And of those, I would say This Side of Paradise is my favorite of them, because it's also a very good Kirk episode. You have that moment with him on the bridge with no one else on there. And so, I'm not saying those
I
are
had to
the
think for a minute which Paradise one because it's like
not
he's
the
like
Indian
when
one,
you
not the
you know,
Native American
I
one.
was like Miramani. That's like that's still a great one though. I love that episode.
Yeah,
To be
yeah,
honest with you.
I like it too.
The
But
Alien Society made sense to me when I saw it as a little kid. The meteor deflector, all of it. That was like the most complicated thing I had ever understood in my life when I saw that when I was like say 6. I was like, all right.
yeah, yeah,
And Spock illustrates it so well. And the, Doctor, in the time it's taken for us to have this conversation, just move from here to here. That
yeah.
was, how do you miss it?
That's right. It's not to scale when he does that, but
No, he moves his hand like a foot. So yeah, he'd be like, you have about 8 minutes before this thing hits the planet.
yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say those are the best episodes, but they're my favorites. So because it has that Spock element that I like. Yeah. And you said
Everyone
yours
loves
was
Voyager, by the way.
you said
Go
yours
ahead.
was the Doomsday Machine, right?
My favorite is the Doomsday Machine, and I guess the last thing I would ask is, I thought of this the other day. The Doomsday Machine seems to share some DNA with the episode Yesterday's Enterprise. We have 2 ships now. It wasn't 2 Enterprises, but in the context of TOS, it is 2 Enterprises, right? There's only 12 like them in the fleet.
Yep.
And it's a more senior officer than Kirk in this case, who's assumed to be his equal, leaving us the question. Then that one is what would happen if it was Spock and Bones on the planet when it was destroyed. How would Kirk handle it? Which I
Right.
think he would have done what Riker did a few days earlier. He was, damn it, I'm gonna ram this thing right down its throat. Like he would have
Yeah.
found a way, or he would have. I think he would have found a way to save them.
Yeah. Yeah. There are a lot of similarities. I had never really thought of that before, but like using one starship that's kind of beat up to destroy or let's say put an end to the threat, and then like having a character from the familiar starship on this strange one. So like in the present, Kirk on the Constellation, or what's her name, Tasha Yar on the Enterprise C.
Enterprise C.
So yeah, I mean, there's definite connections between them.
By the way, Subcommander, 100 combined concurrence.
Oh,
3
we did
digit
it.
club. Thank you all. We are really, really flattered. If you haven't already followed Subcommander, you should. And if you haven't followed me, I hope you would consider it. I do a lot of watch parties. I don't just do Star Trek. I interview people. I also have a pop culture show, and you can catch my news and views kind of rants during the week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm here at 7:30, and Saturday nights. Meet me at the Final Frontier at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. We watch Star Trek. Right now we're going through Enterprise, but we watched the Section 31 movie, and it was so bad that we went and we watched Yesterday's Enterprise because they really trashed that episode in the movie. They mess it up so bad. Subcommander, when they send us their takes on Star Trek, they're not sending their best anymore. They're not sending Michael Piller. They're not sending Brandon Braga. They're sending criminals. They're sending fruit harvesters and vintners. What can I tell you? But yeah, no, I felt like the 2 episodes did have some DNA in them, but
Yeah.
because they defamed the captain in Section 31, we watched Yesterday's Enterprise, and it took till now for it to occur to me. It's like, the thing is, it might as well be an Enterprise, and both episodes have the meta of this. Tell me if you agree. Jaws, the Doomsday Machine, is like the shark, and Kirk gives them that bigger boat by getting and Scotty really gives them that bigger boat by getting it going, right?
Yes.
And that makes all the difference. And also in the Doomsday Machine, the recurring Klingon attacks, they decloak, they attack, they go away. They're sort of like the shark. They're homing in on the ship. They're looking for weakness.
Yeah. No, definitely.
The
And
Reans do have telepathy, that's right. But I don't know. Like, I think I'm ready to dismiss that movie. Honestly, I might not count that as legitimate Star Trek. I might just discount the Next Generation movies. I'm a harsh guy. How about this? I count the first 15 minutes of Star Trek Generations.
and then just leave it at that.
It's where it ends. Yeah, directed by Rick Berman. Bye.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic. They had such a wonderful, perfect ending to that series, TNG, and then they had to go right. They should have let it breathe a little bit before going right into the films, but that's not how the economics of Hollywood work.
If they had just been able to convince, it was everything. That's the tragedy of Enterprise to me, is that the show was getting better and better. The stories were getting tighter and tighter. Then they cut their budget. It still somehow triumphs. I guess the sets were built, so that helped. But they still triumph in season 5 and season 4 a lot. And then the canceled season 5, so many rumors. The idea that to me, was they could have had a movie. And what sucks is, tell me if you don't agree, it was everything. It was the bad choice of the theme song. It was the bad ideas littered throughout the show, like the temporal Cold War. It's like time travel explained sucks. Look at yesterday's Enterprise. How did it happen? We theorize that the discharge of energy from the Romulan weapons threw you forward in time. And it's like, all right, fine, all right, fine. And we don't talk about it anymore because it's kind of like shaky, right?
Right.
But it's time travel done right, because what's more shaky than a guy appears in a ball of fire and we have the best time travel movie ever in Terminator 2. Who walked out of that?
Right,
Who walked out of
exactly.
Terminator 2? So, like,
Suspension of disbelief.
what? Here's the thing I think that makes a difference. You tell me what you think. It's movies with time travel versus movies about time travel.
Hmm. Oh, that's a good distinction. Yeah.
Right?
Well, it doesn't.
Like, it's a
Yeah.
device, that's fine. Like, when the Terminator appears in a flash of fire, and then later Reese is like, oh, we were sent back in time by superior tech from the future. It's like, all right. And when we just have a movie around that. But when the movie's like, like, if you ever explain the TARDIS or spend time in the, you know what I mean? It's like all
Yeah.
these time travel just not isn't, and like real life time travel is incredibly boring. Like on the round trip to Mars, the person would lose 9 seconds.
Right. Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's a device, it gets things going, and then you make it like the Terminator about this, relentless thing and trying to get away from it and all that. It's not about the time travel. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, yesterday's Enterprise. There's a time travel
Mhm.
device, and it's a theory, and they accept it and move on, depending upon the fact that we, the audience, have foreknowledge that this is a pocket universe and like a exceptional dimension created by who knows what.
Yeah,
Maybe this is how it always happened.
it simply exists.
It was a great story. And obviously it's better than in their movies, any of their movies, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I can't think of a movie that where they got it better. They got it better, or were more on the money than they were in that one.
What's interesting is I've heard, and I know I'm almost at the end here, but I've heard that it was kind of they really weren't sure about this episode that it was going to be successful or not. They kind of really like a lot of people were editing the script and they kind of felt like I don't know, do we know what we're doing with this? And then it ended up being a classic. So I think it's funny how sometimes you can't see when you're so close to something, how good what it is you have is.
Professional TV writers who can close a story and end it every night and fill the mystery box, they're going to give you good stuff more of the time than not, because they're going to be like, apply some thematic music here. Make it more dramatic. You know what? This needs to be a different magical emissary. Like in yesterday's Enterprise, imagine if they're like, this is going to be Marina Sirtis's moment to really shine here. She's going to be the one who talks to Tasha about her time travel, and instead of Whoopi Goldberg. However we feel about her now, she was once a capable actress whose performances were enjoyable in Star Trek. She
Hmm.
does a fine job with that weird mystic medium. She was the
It does.
best magical emissary we could have had, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think came across very well in that episode, and in general with her appearances.
She did. Once in a while, here and there, you want to wonder why the Q is afraid of her. Before you go, I know you got to split, so we'll get ready to let you tell everyone what you're up to and what's going on. But let's finish out our poll. 23 votes. Survey says, do you still use the term tweet? Yes, 70%.
Mm.
No, 22%. And 9% of you wonderful people were kind enough to like the stream. I hope all of you will like the stream. I really appreciate it. Also, check out my pal, the Subcommander. Let me grab your link Subcommander Tall over on X, and I've dropped that in the chat now. You can verify this one is correct. I think I got it right.
Yeah, it's Subcommander T.
Okay. Let me just make sure what I try to do is always label what it is before I drop it in, rather than just dropping a link at random. I don't feel like that will help anybody watching later who wants to watch with the super chats. I'm sorry, with the hyperlink, and watch the chats and the super chats go by, so that they can see. A lot of people, when you want to rewatch the chat, and like on weekdays, I do interact with the chat a lot more. On the weekends with the watch parties, sometimes you have to do a lot of hosting and other stuff, but it's been a real pleasure.
Yes,
what's going
thank
on
you.
for you? Do you have any other appearances or things you're doing this week? Going on editorial?
No, things are pretty quiet for me at the moment. I post daily, excuse me, I tweet daily, I suppose, over on my Subcommander T account. I also post from time to time on my Mr. Leslie TOS account. That's on Twitter too. You can follow that if you're interested in sort of a red shirt log. But no,
is Mr. Leslie? Do they sort of does he die and they bring him back by mistake? Is that the thing with Mr. Leslie?
They do, although some episodes he's not named, but he gets killed by the vampire cloud. He has all his blood removed in Obsession, but then he
The
appears.
Battle of the Vampire Cloud. Yeah,
he appears again an episode or two later.
Yeah. I guess he's Mr. Leslie had a twin brother.
That's right.
All right. Well, you know what? What we do on this show is, unless you have something else you want us to know or anything you want to recommend us, I will beam you off, which is our tradition.
Oh, okay. No, I think I'm good, but this has been a hoot and an absolute pleasure.
I hope you'll come back. I really enjoyed meeting you and hearing about your Star Trek feelings, and maybe we'll have you sit in for if you want to do a watch party of Enterprise one of these days.
Yeah, thank you. I'll definitely consider that, and maybe I'll go spend that $7.99 for Paramount Plus and watch Section 31.
You know what? Watch 1883, then watch 1923. Yellowstone proper isn't on. It's on Paramount Plus. It came out when they didn't have a service, like when they CBS Plus kind of got destroyed by the Star Trek show. Because the worst thing on there is actually the new Star Trek. Paramount Plus has a really good creator called Paramount Taylor Sheridan with a lot of real good shows that I think you have a good chance of enjoying it. In fact, we do Star Trek watch parties. When we do the Yellowstone watch parties, people call it Yellowstone 1883. They call it the people on the channel, my channel community and my fans, my friends, they call it Star Trek Yellowstone, and on the NCC 1883.
There you go.
Or the NCC 1920. Some of the same themes. What was really weird was at the end, I didn't know where they were because I didn't watch Yellowstone proper. When they got to their destination, it's Bozeman, Montana, which is where First Contact, the movie, happened.
Oh,
so
yes.
Right. Oh, wow. So it is. Our old Frontier show is a lot like our final Frontier show.
The connections. It's such a vast tapestry.
And this is where I dance perfectly, and it's exactly when you said you needed to split. So let you get out of here. And
thank you.
Time management by Admiral Teag. Who would have thought?
Excellent. That's a rare skill.
You are a great guest, and I really enjoyed talking to you. Have a good one, and enjoy your week, and continue to feel better.
Thank you. See you around the galaxy.
Bye, buddy. We'll beam you back to your ship. All right. All right, guys, Subcommander Tal from Axe. Let me tell you a little bit about what's going on. By the way, take a moment for the Challenger and the Columbia anniversaries, both kind of this week. If I'm correct, maybe Columbia might be Monday. Is it the 2nd or the 4th? It might be. I'll Google it. I'll know by tomorrow. But hats off to these great real explorers who went out into the galaxy for us on our behalf. And peace and long life. This has been a great time hanging out with all of you. Master and Commander of the Far Side of the World. I felt like it was Star Trek in the theater. I agree 120%. It was a Star Trek-like experience. I enjoyed it greatly. And what can I tell you? We've got under 90-minute show. I think that this is a good night to keep it a shorter, more approachable show for people who want to come by later and watch, get the entire experience, spend the whole show with Subcommander Tal. That's his ex right there. Enjoy it, and if you've come here to check out me, you know what, please consider liking and following me either on YouTube or on X, and you know what, turn on those notifications and enjoy the upload for yesterday's Enterprise. You know what, we have just led the conversation on this Section 31 thing, and yesterday's Enterprise is something that they tried to defame. We call out injustices against Star Trek. The only penalty is that we say it's wrong. You know, don't bother tweeting these people or trying to get through to them. The only thing I think we should bother with anymore is a good old-fashioned boycott to a degree. I don't think that we should use their hashtag too much. I don't think that we should try not to use their hashtag too much. Try to use the Section 31 hashtag really disparagingly. I saw an interview with Kurtzman today. I don't know how old it was. It was published like yesterday, though. He's so out of it. He's just saying things still. He's just going to go on cluelessly saying things for forever. In my opinion, it's just, you know, allegedly you would have to be... I don't know what you would be thinking to keep this failed creator around. So with that, I love you guys. And you know what? I see here that we have a treat for you guys. There she is. Woo! Sydney. Oh man, what can I tell you? Baby, oh baby. No, we don't want to get rid of, we want to get rid of a couple of the, oh yeah, we want to get rid of the comment. All right, there we go. So yeah, let's keep this one like, you know, beautifully sweet. But I want to say the Saving Star Trek show is brought to you by Genius of Gene Roddenberry. And also, it's brought to you by the love of Admiral Teag and my panel and my co-hosts, and the gracious contributions of Star Trek fans like J.T. Kirk, a member for 11 months, the Nerdporial Lifeform, who says Section 31 was the greatest thing ever. We had a little talk about that. RRTNZ, who said, hell, listening while walking the dog. That dog got well walked. And then also another one where he asked query for Subcommander, and Subcommander answered that one. I had a great time with all of you today. It was a really successful show. And to all of you coming through later, including my pal Kyle Cullen, who always leaves a comment, hello to you all, and I thank you. Hit those like and follow buttons. And if you're not already with me here on YouTube, you know, join me. And on X, you know, like I said, join me. You will be well treated. How's that sound? You will be well treated. And I have a little something for everybody.
Pure anti-proton. Absolutely pure.
You guys, I love you all. I'll see you later.